They say that talking to yourself is a sign of insanity. But I think that's only if you find yourself answering back. Right? Right. This is Talking to Myself, a podcast where I try to use events and anecdotes from my past to make myself a better artist, and maybe a better person. Hopefully other people can get some use out of this, but mostly I'm just trying to avoid paying for therapy. Today on the podcast, I thought we'd talk a little bit about comparing yourself to others in the sense of artists and self-worth in general. And as usual, we'll start with a little story. I used to work in 3D, which meant that I modeled and textured environmental assets for a company that made 3D visualizations and environments. Basically, this was the early 2000s. The idea was you'd have a web-based platform where someone would hire you to recreate something in 3D, and then you could have people log into a website and walk around in it. It was pretty primitive technology. We were basically just building 3D game worlds, and people were walking around in them. It was a small startup I was working for, and the big .com bust was the end of that company, along with a lot of others in that area, so I didn't have that job for terribly long. But when I was with that job, there was a lot of competition to be the best in the team. The best person in the team always got the best assignments. The best person in the team always got to do the fun stuff, quote-unquote fun stuff. I was newest in the team, so I always got these low-level assignments like, you need to build a set of park benches using, 10 polygons apiece. For those of you not familiar with the polygons, in 3D space, a polygon is basically a triangle, in this case. So imagine trying to build something shaped like a park bench or looks like a park bench using nothing but a few, maybe one or two transparent bitmaps for textures and 10 polygons. It was a lot of fun. Actually, it was a good way to develop creativity, and I did learn a lot. The part of it I want to recall relative to this topic, though, is every night, because I was new to 3D, and I was new to working in an environment that was a professional artistic environment, every night, I would go to some of the sites I was on. I was checking out several 3D forum sites, redoing tutorials and things like that, trying to learn as much as I could about the industry and the art form and the technology. And for some reason, my self-doubt was such that each night I was not able to go to sleep until I was able to find someone who posted something on these forums that was lower quality than I could do. That's how petty I was. It's pretty lame. I mean, some nights it was really hard. Even then, there was a huge crop of people younger than me and better than me, and it was a little disheartening, to be honest, to look at the end of the day and go, these people are all better than me. And I don't deserve my job, and they don't, they're not working in the industry, and I am, and I'm not as good as them, and it was a stupid habit. It was a bad idea, and it was, like I said, incredibly petty. But the reason I did it is because that little boost of self-worth and serotonin I got when I found someone who was worse than me, and yet was willing to post, made me feel superior, which is pathetic and incorrect. But it's something I felt like I needed. Now, this habit proceeded on until I lost the job, clearly. After that, I decided to pretty much give up on 3D and art for a while because it didn't seem like there was a viable career path for me there. So I just went straight into day jobs. That's when I did a lot of the retail jobs and management jobs that I've had. Basically, I gave up. I didn't stop comparing myself to others, but now I didn't look for someone worse than me. I just pretty much looked at a few people that were all better than me, and it made it worse every day. It made it harder every day for me to consider getting back into art. But what I've come to realize now, after years of this doubt, suffering, basically self-imposed suffering, is that was a bad idea. Not only because the outcome is bad, but because it was a false equivalency. There's no comparing, in a creative endeavor, there's no comparing yourself to someone else. What makes an artist is that they make art. And art is an expression, in my opinion, of your own personality and viewpoint through the medium of whatever it is, visual medium or music or anything. basket weaving, mud shoe tap dancing, whatever it is. So therefore, how can you possibly compare it to someone else? Because they're a different person. Sure, there are some technical benchmarks you can look at if you want to see someone's better at recreating realistic drawing techniques with a certain type of media. That's fine, but that's kind of specific, isn't it? I mean, an Olympic athlete is obviously better at their event and all athletics, by the way, all athletics, than I am, but that doesn't make them a better person than me, necessarily. They may be. But because as an artist, especially a starting artist, you have so much tied up into your self-image. Your art is your self-image, how, what you can make, how well you can draw, you think, or paint, or whatever it is you. When you see someone who's better than that, it makes you compare yourself unfavorably. And that's just a bad mindset to have. And I've spent a lot of time trying to break that mindset. And I think I've gotten mostly over it. I mean, it still comes up all the time. I still see tons of people. I'm like, wow, that's really great. I wish I could draw that well. And then I just push it aside. Like, it doesn't matter. All I can do is the best I can. And the only thing that bothers me now is when I'll attempt to do something artistically and fail, which still happens every day. But it doesn't dissuade me because someone else is better. It dissuades me because I feel like I'm not good enough. And that's also something I've come to learn throughout my quote-unquote career. There's no such thing as best or even better than someone else. There's such thing as better than yourself previously. But I'll bet you $1 million, not an actual bet, that if you are an artist, you can go back through an old sketchbook and find something that you like better than something you drew today. That's just how it works. Sometimes you get lucky and you make a certain thing that you really enjoy. But does that make it worth more than anything else? I mean, if you're just drawing for your own enjoyment, maybe. Most artists are not trying to create simply for their own enjoyment, but even if they are, that's not always true. If you're creating for some other purpose, like for other people to see, then there's absolutely no judgment on that, because someone's going to like everything. How many times have you, as a creative, seen people adore and fawn over work that you feel is not quite adequate or not as good as something that you like? That's just what it means to have taste or to have opinions. It has nothing to do with objective quality, and it shouldn't have anything to do with your own opinion of your work. Theodore Roosevelt was one of my favorite U.S. presidents, and he had a quote that everyone seems to bring up when this kind of subject comes up. It's pretty simple. Comparison is the thief of joy. I like to think of that every time I compare myself to someone else and go, man, I wish I was that good. And then there's a voice in the back of my head that says the Teddy Roosevelt quote and then says, well, why don't you practice more? Be better than you now. That's your goal. Doesn't matter what everyone else is doing. You're not competing directly with other people in the world for anything. You just need to do the best you can now and try to do better than that later. And that's really all there is to it. It's taken me a long time to come up with this simple premise because I am not that smart. Hopefully, this little bit of introspection can help someone else get there faster. I mostly do these podcasts to help myself work through things I'm having problems with or things I'd rather not think about anymore. So I spew them out into the world for everyone else to hear so I don't have to have it rattling around in my head anymore. Occasionally, sometimes I hope they can help other people. This has been one of those times that I hope it actually can help some other people. I've met artists that judge themselves pretty harshly, either based on comparison to others or just in general, because they're not quite where they want to be. And that's always going to happen. But you need to remember that you're making the art. As long as you do better than you did last time, you're way ahead of the game. So try and keep that in mind. Don't be too hard on yourself. But do keep practicing. This is especially for myself. Practice drawing things you have trouble with a lot. Do them until you don't have trouble with them anymore. Do them until you're sick of the habit of drawing them because it's too easy for you. And then you'll find something else you don't like and you can practice that. That's why this is a journey, not a destination. Thanks everybody for watching this on YouTube. Thanks especially to my patrons on Patreon who get to see these and hear these a week earlier than everyone else because they are truly the shiniest people I know. You are all near and dear to me. Some of them geographically, some not. Until next time, you guys take care.